Peace, family. Welcome to another episode, Underground Railroad Productions, UGR TV. This is your host, Brother Rich, and I'm in the building. Let me let the brother introduce himself. Go ahead, brother, because they in for one today, so go ahead.
All right. Peace and greetings, family. My name is Sri Gano Grills from Galacticus.com. That's GALIGHTICUS, and I'm very privileged to be in front of you.
Indeed, brother. We're gonna have a great conversation today about people were intrigued with the video I did with KT when KT was talking about us having this potential, this untapped potential. So me and Gano gonna go further and deeper into that. And we're going to be dealing with our DNA and how to tap into this dormant DNA that's in us that's not being used. So the brother got some events coming up that I want everybody to attend if they're able to. But definitely, we're going to get busy today, Gato. So to start out with, what's going on with these events you got coming up? What's the purpose of these events you got? What's the purpose of what you want to present to the people?
Okay. Well, the first thing that, I want to say that a lot of what I'm doing started by me saluting my altar. And I got an overwhelming command by the ancestral kingdom to go out and share some of the things that they have taught to me. And the first time I got that command, it was about 3 years ago on Juneteenth. It was the day of the ancestor tribute in Coney Island. So I was giving offerings to my my ancestor altar, and I got this huge torrent. It was a wave that came over me, and it kind of read like this: take a shower, go down to Coney Island right now, and talk to the people about us. And I questioned it, and I said, are you guys kidding me? And it was like, no, we're not joking. We need to do that right now. So I say all of that to say this. The crux of what I do really is based upon helping people to unblock some of the limitations that they are in, helping people to bypass some of the struggles that they may be rife with. And a lot of it is commonsensical. A lot of it you might have mulled over in your mind. A lot of it has come from within. A lot of it has been offered from outside of you. And when you connect the dots and you put everything together, you come to the conclusion that you are not utilizing a lot of the forces that are surrounding you, or a lot of the things that are available to you. I don't know if that answers the question, though. I kind of think I went off a little bit. I just wanted to be a little more in depth.
Definitely.
Okay.
So with that being said, let's get into it. DNA. A lot of people think that from the time you are born, it's something that you can't change. And science is forever changing, and it's forever, it's becoming more and more advanced. And they're figuring out ways. First of all, they're saying that, I think last week they came out, they said there's a whole nother layer of DNA. The DNA is folded, and there's a whole nother layer that we could tap into. So it's very interesting times we live in. Information age where so much stuff that wasn't available for is available now. What exactly is tapping into this DNA? How is this going to help us in 2016 and all the trials and tribulations people may have? They may look at this as, this is a little spooky, or this is just some science, or, this is pseudo, or this is, I don't know what some people may not fully understand it. But how is this going to benefit the average man and woman living in America in 2016, brother?
Okay. That's an admirable question. And my best attempt to answer it would be, how is this kind of information that is considered by some to be pseudo savant or spooky going to help people who are really ensconced in the struggle? Would be that you know, everything that we live, every struggle that you were in that is physical, every hour that you have to work on your job, every dollar that one might have to pay in child support was caused by an invisible agreement or circumstance. The conditionality that people are living out in their physical corporeal lives were caused on an unseen level by unseen forces. How is that? By people's behaviors, by people's patterns. So one of the things that I like to offer people is I have something called Kundalini activation, where I turn on by sending energies into the base of the spine where the Kundalini is housed, to turn it on. Once it turns on, it takes about 3 different endowments that I have to send so that the Kundalini is gently awakened. Now, how this pertains to answering the question is that, let's say someone is walking around with, because let's also establish that we as human beings, black people, we have lived many times more than what our current life form would suggest. Our lifespan spills over into hundreds, if not thousands, of lifetimes. Each and every one of those lifetimes carries a certain signature that is still coalesced within the body. And it forms your phobias. It forms your dislikes. It forms your affinities with certain people, certain things, and certain events, and even ley lines on the planet. So when those things are brought to the surface, they are able to inform what you're going to do next. A lot of people need to be cut away from some of the phobias that they've been walking around with for thousands or hundreds of years. This is a real occurrence. It's a real thing. I've given people Kundalini Reiki. I've activated people's Kundalinis, and I've seen people change and transform into someone that is not blocked by some of the things that they've been walking around with for many different lifetimes. And the proof is really in the trajectory that takes place after the person is initiated. So when someone is willing to take this endowment of energy and apply it towards their life, their physical struggles are going to attenuate. They're going to minimize, if not altogether disappears. It really depends on how much someone is willing to work on themselves. And the analogy goes like this. If you see a ballerina, ballerinas have to exercise, and they have to form the calluses that allow them to stand on the tips of their toes. This happens over a long period of hours and hours of dancing and practice and stretching and flexibility. At a certain point, they'll be able to stand and put all of their weight on their big toe and spin and do 360 turns. The evidence of the proof of what they put into it is empirical on how they present their abilities. So to make a long story short, when someone works on themselves spiritually, their lives show the indicator of that work. Spirituality, accepting divine energies within the body, working on yourself spiritually through different practices that are structured, will make one's life better and better and better. The struggles that people may have personally in their lives are really an indicator of what you need to do to grow beyond that, and the information is usually right in your face.
What can you tell me about this planetary ascension I keep hearing about? These spiritualists that's on the internet, you know, black and white, Indian, whatever race, they're all talking about a planetary ascension that's hitting the planet at this time, especially this year. And I think they say we're going into like the 4th or 5th density, and that you have to be tuned into a certain frequency to experience it. What could you tell the people? Because this is something that I'm not hearing a lot from brothers in the community. What can you tell the people that are interested in this? What is this about, this planetary ascension?
Planetary ascension really means that there is an aspect of the planet that needs to be cured from chattel slavery, Holocaust, the transatlantic slave trade, the Holocaust of the North American Indian, there have been so many different events that have happened across the tapestry of our world. It has caused a spiritual backlog that impedes the planet, which is a living organism that has feeling and thought and also an agenda. Her as a planet, some people call it Gaia, some people call her Pachamama, some people call it Ea, Ardua Terrestris, or Earth. And her agenda is to ascend from and basically heal from all of the woes that she has seen since her existence. There have been 3 major floods. There have been atomic bombs. There have been all kinds of things that she is still reeling from. Even the BP oil spill that happened a few years ago. The Fukushima fallout actually was something that has distressed this planet. So ascension is an event that will happen when the collective of the people on the planet shift gears in their consciousness and become unified. Unified thought is when the 100 monkey syndrome, for lack of a better term, takes place. When everybody automatically knows that, okay, you are my brother and I'm going to treat you as such. When starvation stops, when lies, deceit, and all kinds of things that we basically celebrate through our entertainment become a thing of the past. So ascension means a planet that is in a 3rd density, which is the lowest form of feeling that there is, because people still do things on this planet that abhor higher sentient life forms. We're still drowning in those things. We still have war on this planet. So when all of those things fall away and it becomes a distant memory for someone to even think about punching someone in the face, then we will have shifted gears in our awareness, and we will have arrived at something called the 4th density, which is an octave above this one, where those kind of struggles really don't exist nearly as much as they do here. There was a planet in our solar system called Vulcan. It's about 350,000 years ago. And it was the first planet in our solar system to reach ascension. And the moment that every being on that planet, which were human, once they all ascended, they instantly became gods. Gods are beings that use 100% of all of their power and their potential. We can't really fathom how powerful the gods are because we are still racked within our limitations. But gods are able to think something and instantly manifest it. A creator god can create an entire solar system by thought. A creator god can also take incubated souls that are inside of a place, let's say the Areala Borealis, which is a place where there are lots of souls waiting to come into embodiment on Earth. A creator god can tap into that bank and cause about 100 souls to be born on Earth that will make a drastic change for the better. And a lot of the children that have been born here, the psychic kids, the crystal kids, the rainbow kids, have come from that region, and they have abilities that you wouldn't believe. So that would be something to consider when you're looking at the things that are available for us if we're willing to take that leap.
Very interesting. Wow. In terms of when you talked earlier about us living many lifetimes down here, you said possibly thousands, right?
Yes.
And you also mentioned praying to our ancestors. The question I think of is, usually when a person thinks about their ancestor, they think about someone outside of them. Like, you know, if my grandmother was a separate entity from me, or my mother was a separate entity. When you bring reincarnation into the picture, and you saying, and we're taught in our culture to pray to our ancestors, can we possibly, is that another way of saying you're praying to yourself? The you who was you 5 lifetimes ago, or 7 lifetimes, or 15 lifetimes ago? Because it makes me think about our multi-dimensional nature. Is it just another way of saying brother Gano Grills is praying to himself when he's praying to his ancestors because you existed so many times down here?
That's partially true. Part of it is that, a small part of it, it is also true that you have hundreds and thousands of ancestors who, some of them have not cycled back into incarnation here on Earth. Some of them actually went to the divine world. Some of them are still trapped here on the earthly plane as ghosts. Some of them have left a piece of their soul, which is known as a recording, here just to wait for revenge from the person that had actually had a hand in their death. So you basically are sponsored by your ancestors because you have built a physical body with the DNA strands and the codes that were basically active from your entire lineage. All of your gifts, all of your pitfalls, all of the things that make you special are really borrowed from the DNA of your ancestors, which is why they are inside of you, but at the same time, they are also deposited in different places within the cosmos. And when you connect with them, there is a very active way to get the intelligentsia that they possessed, and they continue to work on by worshiping them.
In terms of one word that gets used a lot is when you deal with this type of spirituality and we're dealing with frequencies and all of that, is people use the word energy a lot. Oh, he got good energy, he got bad energy, or, you know, my energy is attracted to that energy, or my energy resonates with that energy. I guess, and I talked to Infodici about this the other day, and I guess what people don't like is the concept of energy not discriminating against good or bad. Energy is just energy, and I guess they're saying when you really get into it, it appears that energy, you know, whoever wants to use it, it's available there for people. And we're looking at it from a moral perspective, saying, why is it? I don't want to get into this energy science, because why would energy serve an evil man? Why would energy serve George W. Bush, or why would energy serve you know, whoever's Hitler, Adolf Hitler? Why would I study the same energy and the same science Adolf Hitler studied? So it deters a lot of people from getting involved. Could you explain to me and talk to us about this concept of energy not discriminating against good? Because we like to call it black magic and white magic. That's what I was taught when I was young. There's black magic and white magic. Then when I got older, people said it's just magic. It just depends on the person using it. But at the end of the day, black magic is the same as white. It just depends on that vehicle using it can call it black or could call it white. They could call it green, or they could call it whatever. But talk to us about energy, and is it moral? Is it good? Is it bad? Or is it doesn't have morality? Please talk to us about that.
Okay. Well, energy is the fluidity of creation. The creator has created something that is so powerful that for the people who are able to take energy and transform it, they could turn it into whatever they wish, whatever they intend to use it for. So if you say it's fire, you take a fire and you light the fire. Is the fire good, or is the fire evil? It is none of the above. What you do with the fire determines what the fire becomes, and that really is to the arbitrator, like you said. So the energies, there are so many kinds of energies. Some energies are perverted and twisted. Other energies are purified, magnified, and quantum leaped. And it really depends on what it is that you would like to do. So black magic really isn't the same as white magic, because black magic, and we're not talking about melanin, so I constantly have to make that clear when I say black. I'm referring to the nature and the polarity of degradation, degenerative forces, decay, confusion, and chaos. Unfortunately, that's synonymous with black magic. When you use magic to hurt someone, to kill someone, you want to send a death ray to someone, that's looked at as black magic. Some people call it obia, wicketry, voodoo, whatever it is. It's still the same connotation. But then you have people that basically pray for other people, that are healing, people that basically offer heka'u, or divine utterance, or words of power. This is something that will enhance the life force of the person that it is directed to. So there's a responsibility that comes with people that utilize this energy, and the energy is able to do some things. I've seen some very, very powerful miracles. There was a lady that was in Oakland, California. Her name was Kemet Anka. You might have heard the story. When I was in Egypt, which is about, I don't know how many miles away, so I don't want to incriminate myself, but she asked me to send her some energy, and I would say Oakland to Egypt is a good ways away from each other. So I went into meditation. I directed her a very conscious thought form that ended up on her knee in the shape of an ankh. And the reason that happened was because my intention and my connection to the magic that I use traveled a long distance and created a signature of where the energy was from. There are other people that basically maybe gossip or say negative things about people. That's also a lower form of chaos that some people may say is juju. And the sum total of someone's juju directed at you can and will have an adverse reaction contrary to what the person who it is directed at would like to have. So it's important. Now we talk about spiritual protection. A lot of people don't walk around with spiritual protection because they think these energies or these forces are not real, and that's not the case. I bring up somebody like Kimbo Slice. Kimbo Slice was somebody who was an amazing pugilist. He boxed very well. And I went into meditation, and I was told very clearly that he was someone that was killed because he beat up a few people that actually did work with black magic. And Kimbo didn't have any type of spiritual protection. So if you get 3 or 4 people sending you these energies, it's enough basically to take you out. And it's inherent upon anyone that knows about these forces to blanket themselves and make sure that they're protected from all of these things. But the energies are very real.
I got this book here. I want to ask you a question based on something I read in the book. It made me think about things going on right now in society. The name of the book is The DNA Field and the Law of Resonance. I'm trying to read this fast. It's talking about how this section is human feelings affect the formation of DNA. The results of a recent study prove that DNA changes its form based on the feelings emitted by the researchers of the study. For example, when the researchers felt approval, love, or drunkenness, the DNA responded with relaxation. The DNA strings opened up, which means they became longer. In contrast, when the researchers felt frustration, anxiety, anger, or stress, the DNA strings became shorter and shut off many of its codes. Shut off its DNA codes, wow. In other words, the DNA reacted to negative feelings by pulling itself together. Now, we can understand why negative feelings simply shut us off from the outside world. When we are angry or in a bad mood, we feel isolated and cut off from the flow of life, and the reality is we are in fact cut off. However, we cut ourselves off. All right, with that being said, about the feelings and the DNA, the connection between feelings and DNA, it makes me think, part of the purpose of my channel is there's a group of people in this country that have gone through something unique. We call those people black people. These people that we call black people, myself, yourself, that has a certain melanin hue to them, very frustrated by what they see on television. There's not a lot of positivity on television. You walk out on the street, there's not a lot of positivity out there, depending on where you live. So when I read this, I say to myself, wow, are we cutting ourselves off from access to DNA by the way we feel from society? So not only is it's affecting us on many levels that we aren't even aware of. So part of the goal of talking to a brother like you who deals with the invisible realm is to show these people that we call black people, including me and you, the importance of being on a certain frequency to open up your DNA to tap into these potentials. So how you personally, how can you talk to people listening, everything they're going through? Oh man, I mean,
it's deep.
How can they tap into this love frequency, brother, in a world that appears to be filled with hate for them? Right. How are they going to tap into this love frequency, brother?
That's a really good question, and my best earnest attempt to answer it would be like this. We have been, and I mean our people, black people, melanated people, we've gone through some things that are debaucherous and heinous and blasphemous, to say the least. When someone first comes across higher knowledge, or they come across what really happened to them on a academic collegiate level, on a scholarship level, and they learn about their greatness, and then they look at the condition that they live in, and then they look around at their circumstances, you know, there's a contradiction, and there also is an anger that comes from deep within the recesses of our people that needs to be addressed. A lot of people say that a lot of these movies that are coming out, you know, 12 Years a Slave and Roots and the Book of Negroes, you name it, all of these different edicts that we live that happen anywhere from the 1400s to the 1800s, there's a good reason why those things are coming out. And they're coming out because the ancestors that lived through the horror of what those indiscriminate stories, unceremonious stories were, they need to have a voice. They need to have a circumvent. So what they do is they go into the hearts and the lower dantian of people who are sensitive enough to write their story into a script. Hollywood will put it out, and there's a litany and a cosmogony of souls that need to have that kind of vindication through having it put out on television so the masses can look at the struggle and have more respect for the things that they endured, things that they sojourned, and things that they had to suffer through so that we can have the today that we have. When enough of us diasporically have received those codes that the ancestors are giving through these shows, through these movies, and some of these plays that are out here, they will rest at peace. They will go into the spirit world, rest, recycle, and if they feel like coming back here to a different world that they've affected, they will do that. But it won't happen unless we start to turn our attention to some of what they went through. Now, to speak to some of the other people, some of the young people that look at this and they didn't know anything about it and they have this anger, a lot of people in the conscious community, you know, I don't need to call any names, but a lot of people have a platform and they talk about the white cracker devil, peckerwood, and all those things. And there's a lot of viscosity and passion and anger that is connected to those words. But you have to look at, I understand their pain and I understand why they feel that way. But what happens is if you don't transmute, now we're talking about energy, right? We don't transmute those feelings, which are units of energy, into something that is finer. It's like Family Reunion, like the OJs. That's a deep song because he said, you know, if I cut my wrist and your wrist, I'm transposing the lyrics, we all bleed the same color. But when someone is walking around with an avarice against someone who doesn't look like them, whether it's black to white, white to black, Chinese, or Puerto Rican to Dominicans, because, you know, they can't stand each other for some reason, and we have those kind of barriers between us and we don't see the commonality, because in essence, humans are more similar than we are dissimilar. We all have an arm, leg, arm, a head. And we don't, and I don't know if I said that, but let me clarify because I didn't hear myself say it. 2 legs, 2 arms, and a head. We all have that. Some of us are amputees, but most of us have that. So what makes us similar is a lot more abundant. So it's inherent on people that whatever feelings that you have of anger that are attributed to the past, the work is really on you, like Iyanla Van Zant says. You have to do your own work to transmute that energy into something greater so it doesn't hold you back, shut down your telomeres, which are the which are the genes that basically elongate your lifespan here on Earth with quality. The demigods that came here actually cut the telomeres off, which is the reason why we die at 125. The people that live beyond 125 become mythic, and it's like, there's no way that those people could have lived. But there are ways that if you get your telomeres to continue to oscillate, you can live forever. And Simeon Toku was a version of that, as were many other people whose names we probably will never know. And that really begins from the inside of not having that rage that's connected with the anger.
Considering, on the topic of the melanated experience in this lifetime, and thinking about the theme of reincarnation, reincarnating down here, why do you think we chose to go through this experience personally? Yourself, myself, incarnate down here, this color, just everything we've have experienced in our life. Why do you think we chose this as a soul?
The best analogy that I could give to that is I think we were all kids at one time. And there was a time where, and I think everyone can relate to this, where we might have wanted to do something that our parents did not want us to do. We might have wanted to go to a party that our parents knew there was not going to be a lot of good there. There might have been weed. There might have been, irresponsible sex. There might have been some things that they did not want us to partake in. And some of us snuck out of the house and went to that party. Some of us really wore our parents down by being unrelenting in our request to go. But the analogy goes like this. We once were in a state of totality, eternal perfection. And that was not enough for our sensibility. We knew everything that there was to know except what it was like not to be perfect. This is caused that desire to want to know what it's like to be separated from the power of our Creator, caused us to make certain decisions at the constant asking of our Creator to please let us have an experience that you will not be part of so that we can make our way back to you. The Creator questioned us about this, and we remained obstinate and recalcitrant to the point where we created a cut-off reality that we now live in. And the Creator has been very beneficent about giving us lots of avenues and boulevards to find our way back home. But a lot of us, because we've been traveling for such a long time, devolving, we have literally forgotten the divine part of where we did come from. What's interesting is the soul that is inside of your body is a divine vessel that has to separate from the body every single night and go back to the part of you that did not leave home, dock onto the spirit, and give a report as to the sum total of what you're doing every day on earth. The spirit part of you, which would literally be the Creator, makes the determinate decision to download more energy to give you more of what you'd like to experience here on earth. The soul comes back into the body, and this is basically what creates your reality.
As a soul, is it possible to, let's say, incarnate through different races, like be part of this? And they say race is an invention, but let's say your physical vessel right now, heavily melanated brother, is it possible for you in 2 lifetimes from now to be blonde hair, blue eyes? Is that possible?
I'll go you one better. Not only is it possible, but it's an actual fact that most of us have been every race. We've been transgender, we've been animals, we've been all of these things. And a lot of the people, and I'm going to say this, and this may anger some people, but a lot of people who are quote unquote in certain communities were once the oppressor. What do I mean when I say that? If you look at a lot of the lore that's associated with some of the things that black people went through, like being lynched from trees, having our head stomped on a curve and opened up like a coconut. A lot of the perpetuators of those events have incarnated as black men and women today. And they still have that racial hatred to the same people that they transgressed upon to this day. And that's a very real thing. And what you hate, you become. So it's important for people to really look at the things that they don't like, look at the hatred that they have, ask where it's coming from, and work to dissolve it out of their apparatus.
Let's touch real quick, brother, on, let's get into some manifestation, real, because I know you deal with that.
Yes.
Everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to manifest what they desire, whether it's a car, whether it's a woman, whether it's a man. And there's so many books, you know, The Secret came out and there was just so many different programs that taught people how to manifest this. You could do this, you could do that, you could do that. From your study and your research, you seem to be a well-researched brother. What's some of the best advice you could give the people in terms of manifesting their desires?
Okay. And thank you, by the way, for that. One of the best ways to manifest your desires is, first of all, look at the desires that you wish to manifest and ask yourself if it's coming from your brain or from your heart. If it's coming from your heart, it's more likely that you will have the success, because the heart is it's an infinitude. It's a small amount of the creator's essence. If it's coming from the brain, it's going to have the separatism. It's also going to have the polarity of beginning and end. And most of the things that are created by the brain or from the brain have a rise and fall. But the things that are created from the heart chamber are eternal. And they don't have a beginning and an end. They just keep going. If you look at the music and the talent of somebody like Stevie Wonder, I think it would be safe to say that he creates his music from the heart chakra, which is why he still has the talent, and he just keeps on producing repetitively year after year. And he's been in the game for about 40 to 50 years. So manifesting, there are people that want to manifest money, better jobs, a mate. Your ancestors can help you with that. They know what you want to have. This is how it goes. I'm going to just ask you, Brother Rich, you put money in the bank, correct? Why do you put it there?
To save it.
Okay. You put it there to save it.
One
right.
reason, yeah.
Most people put money in the bank to save it. And they save the money so that it'll be there when they need it. So you make those deposits and you put it in a place where it can be safe. And when you need to draw upon it, it'll be there for you. It's really no different from the ancestors. We as a people don't make enough of a deposit into the spiritual world where our ancestors are, so that we can make a withdrawal when we need to. So what I tell people is, get a thorough understanding of what the altar can give you. And this is what I teach. I teach people about making those deposits into the spiritual world. And so you will be able to get what you would like to have, and they're responsible for that. When someone doesn't have sufficient spiritual credit, this is what I like to call it, there's no way that you're going to be able to qualify for the things that you really want in this world. I'll use myself as an example. A few years ago, before I started Galacticus, I had to work really hard as a stagehand, and I didn't like the work. I was making $25 an hour. Horrible work. I couldn't do the work more than 3 days a week because it was really breaking me down. And I think I'm in relatively good shape. So I used to have to go somewhere in New Jersey to go get the check. I had wait for a whole month to get the check. And when I got the check, it was too late. I brought my friend with me, and when we were standing there waiting on the bus, I said, I wouldn't mind living in this neighborhood. And that's where I now live. I don't have to do that work anymore. I will never struggle with money anymore, because I started to tap into the fields of abundance that not only our ancestors have, but our divine parents have waiting for you. And I've made a lot of deposits throughout the years unconsciously into the spirit world, and I make withdrawals whenever I like. So the withdrawals are ways to heal other people, ways to teach other people, and teach people the same thing.
Definitely, man. Before we wrap it up, I want to introduce Joel Benjamin. He's been on the program a couple of times, and he got a couple of questions for you. This the brother. He works at Nicholas, and this is the spot we at right now. So whoever's in Brooklyn, come down to Nicholas, Brooklyn, and come get your cultural needs on or whatever.
We're here at Nicholas, Brooklyn, and I encourage people to come through. We like to support black business, and I hear what you were saying about the spiritual credit. Now, my thing, I saw you on Sign of the TV for a while. Knew you before that.
Right.
But I saw you on Sign of the TV, and some of the disrespectful comments that people make, even on Brother Rich platform, you always will have certain people make disrespectful comments, especially when it comes to spirituality. Some of them, they disagree, but they do it respectfully. So let me hit you with some of the questions that people will come respectfully, but they disagree, and they'll call this whole thing pseudo. Now, these are people that believe in Egypt. These are people that believe in the Bible. These are people that believe in all different walks of life. But once you start dealing with this hardcore spiritual stuff, oh, that's pseudo. That's pseudo. So now my question is to you. What would you tell somebody that comes along and they hear you talking about spiritual credit that has a business?
Right.
Like such as Brother Rich. He has a business.
Right.
You understand? He has a platform where people come on. You have me and my wife. We have this business here, Nicholas, and other businesses. Then you yourself have a business. It was like, well, you come with all that. What could I use? What could I do? Like, what make you the authority? What make you the expert to say, use this, do this?
Right. That's a great question. And what I would say to that is I've worked with my altar for years, and I've seen the results that it yields. And I want to entertain some of the detractors that will, hopefully have the sense not to make a negative comment. But let's just say
hold on before you continue.
Right.
A lot of them are agents. Just put it like that. It's already been proven on CNN, RT, the different news outlets that they have governments that go on certain people's YouTube pages and certain Facebooks that's putting out certain information to throw daggers. You get what I'm saying? So
that's deep.
Continue.
Okay. Right on. So that puts that to the side. But what would make me an authority on the things that I teach, which are 99% experiential, is the application that I personally have seen for myself. I've seen the hypernatural magic. I've experienced the miracles. I've seen the transformation, not only in my life, but in the lives of other people that I have directed and consulted and advised to partake and plug into these fields. Now, if you go to galacticus.com, you go to my website, I have an entire page that has testimonies. And with the testimonies, I put the face and the name on there. A lot of people have testimonies that are erroneous. I have testimonies that are viable and provable. So not only is that the proof in the pudding, but I took it a step further of people that call my number and leave their heart-filled testimony about how they burned ancestor money that they got from me, which is accelerated thousands of times over, because I work with the god known the Jade Emperor, and he's known as the grandfather to this universe, but I don't want to go too far into that. And the gift that he gave me is the knowledge of how to arrest the death of entire ancestral lineage and how it will liberate you financially in many other different ways. So people that call me and leave these messages, I have hundreds of them. Gano, I want to just let you know that I did what you asked me to do. And a month later, I've had a windfall, or I've had this, I've had that. And their testimonies are in their own voice. I've had other people that basically have left all kinds of testament as to how this works. So that's what makes me an authority on it.
No, brother. You got to be paying these people to come on there and say that. Yeah.
Okay.
You got to be paying these people.
Okay. I would also say for the people that divine, the people that are into divination, that know how to use the pendulum or coconuts, you could divine everything that I'm saying yourself and let me know what you come out with. Because I have people that I teach in their dream state. There's really not much you can do to argue with something like that. The students that I have, the clients and the initiates, they all see me in their dreams because I take them out of their body in the spiritual veil, take them beyond the veil, and show them what eternity really looks like. What can you say about that?
All right, good. So we cover that you ain't paying the people.
Right.
All right?
Right.
We cover with the naysayers. Now, you have people will say, wait a minute. Now, these are the people that's spiritual, quote unquote, on point. Wait a minute. Did you just hear what he said? That brother is invading people's dreams. He's snatching them up, because there is cases where I know, I'm just saying from me with what I know, of certain people when you tell people that you know how to do this and you prove you know how to do this, certain people get very afraid of you. And you have some people, they're afraid because of their past experience where someone went and acted as a male, act as an incubus, sucking their energy, looking to do stuff sexually to them and whatnot. What makes you different? What makes it that we could trust you?
That's a really good question. You know my assistant Liz. Liz has seen her share of miracles just being around me. And to answer your question quite succinctly, the spirit world validates who I am. My mother asked me a question one time. She says, son, what are you going to say when someone asks if you have a PhD? And I'll say that I don't. But I have a PhD that comes from the spiritual world, and it's called the SRI, Sri Gano. They validate and bestow upon not just me, but lots of people who are doing this work, the magic that they're going to need to show and prove what they do. The energy doesn't belong to me. It just comes through me because I'm faithful and I'm a servant to everyone that wants to have this. So to answer the question, this might be TMI for a lot of people. I don't have any sexual agendas because I haven't had sex in going on 5 years. So no one out there can say that, well, he's trying to get with me because, that's not an issue. And because I've done that penance, I have won the trust of archangels who have given me, and I'll just use this as an example, Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel gave me an off-world instrument that was not made on this planet. Everyone who has come to my functions and has had their cords cut, you know what that is. It looks like the Ashanti dagger from the Golden Child. That instrument cuts people away from their cords that they have based on different pacts, agreements, bindings, negative codes. And the last time I just performed this in Atlanta, about 15 people were...
I'm sorry. When you say that dagger, some people will be, is it physical or spiritual?
That's a great question. It is...
Seen, is it materialized?
Yes.
Something tangible to hold on to?
It's materialized. It's very, very heavy. The metal that it's made of is not from this world. And I have to do something where I have to bring it to the hall of judgment in my outer body and bring it to be divested of all of the energy that it's cut away from.
So, Brother Gano, before
Yes.
you continue, I want to be clear, because this is what people will be seeing, and they'll say this. It's actual, like how we're holding this mic.
Right.
All right. Now, people will ask, you said you got it from Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel. With my own experience, I know for a fact with Archangel Michael and Gabriel. Now, when these people say, how did they give it to you? Because you're going to have those that be like, all right, he mentioned this, but that's pseudo. You notice he ain't say this. Yeah, and I know you witnessed stuff like
Right,
this
absolutely.
before. So
welcome
how did they give you? Did they come physically, or was it something where you found it? They led you to where it was. You understand?
That's a great question. And when I say that they gave it to me, I mean that the power that is inside of it. By the way, it's not just them. There was a god named Lord Ganesh, and there was another goddess named, and I say God, Lakshmi, right? And we'll get into it. I was in San Francisco, and I went into this store, and I saw a shrine of Lord Ganesh and Lakshmi, and I prostrated, and I left a sizable offering. Whenever I see their shrines, I do that because they are parts of me. And when I was leaving the store, I was led to this instrument, and I looked at it, and I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And I started hearing in my head, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. And I asked the guy, I said, the guy that ran the store, I said, what is that? He says, I don't know. So I said, okay, well, how much is it? He said it was pretty expensive. And I said, well, could you? I'd like to know what that is, because I'm getting a very powerful prompt to obtain that. So he called the owner, and the owner said, yeah, we don't know what that is. It's been here for a while, and nobody knows how it got here. So I said, okay, I bought it. And when I went to Las Vegas the next day, I went down to the hotel, and I was eating breakfast, and I felt this energy, this best I could say is electricity entering from my crown chakra, and I started crying, and then I started weeping. It was about 20 minutes, and I was embarrassed. People were looking at me as I'm there trying to cover my tears. And when I went back to my room, I went into meditation, and I asked, okay, can you guys tell me what that was? And they said that was the current that you're going to need to cut people away from their limitations, and part of that current is in the instrument that you just got from San Francisco. And I said, okay. And lo and behold, every time I've used it, which has only been twice in a group setting, it does have a very powerful celestial effect of ridding people from their cords that they've been carrying around for a very long time. And it causes people, there were a couple of people in Atlanta that had to leave the room, and they were in the bathroom just weeping and some of them for days. I was getting phone calls saying, Gano, I don't know what that was, but I feel so free, and I just can't stop crying because I feel this weight lifted off of me, and I can't stop crying. So what I was told was, this is what we wanted to do. And in order for you to be successful in this is why you haven't had sex in over 4 years, because you don't have any attachments or sexual cords or cordings or agreements or pacts or anything holding you back. You wouldn't be able to do this if you were having sex with anyone.
Okay, now you telling your personal experience. That's what I like, because a lot of people don't understand when you're dealing with spiritual stuff. A lot of it is your personal experience. Then you got those that say, well, what works for you ain't gonna work for me. That's why you have different stuff that you use. So we already established that. Now, some people ain't trying to hear that. Oh, you mean to tell me I can't have sex, Gano? Gano, 5 years? Really? Gano, does that ties into Genghis Khan? Because if I'm not mistaken, Genghis Khan, they let him know, yo, no sex. And he was like, I ain't trying to hear that. And when you hear different conquerors, certain stories of different people, where they're like, okay, abstain for sex. But then you have other people that will have sex, no problem, and they're still able to do the same work. So people is like, oh, it's a mind thing, but I already know, but I want it coming from you to the people. How do you decipher it? Because they'll look and say, well, you bugging. You gonna tell me I can't have sex? That's some cultism shit. And then it'll have other people that will hear,
Catholic priest shit.
Yeah, some old Catholic priest. That's some old, excuse my language, some old Catholic priest-ish. Then you got those on the next hand that will say, oh, you gotta have, you're not supposed to be doing that while having sex. That's some old freaky European sex Wicca stuff. Right? So you see the diverseness in it. So could you into that?
Well, you know, there are people that use sex to manifest tantrically, and that's a real viable way to join the unification of your energy through divine circumstance, and that works. I never said that anybody couldn't have sex. I don't know where you got that from. I just said me personally.
That's when people hear you. That's automatically what they come with.
Okay. In order for me to do what I am now doing to the degree of the success that I've been having, it's mandated that, or it was, that I just happen not to have sex. And it's not.
It wasn't directed.
I wasn't. It's not. I never would have made the agreement if I knew about it from the beginning. So certain things, you know, I looked at my life and I said, "Hey, I haven't had sex in 6 months." Then it was a year. Then it was 2 years. I said, "Okay." And to be honest with you, I was afraid to really look at why that was happening until one day, Archangel Michael, through meditation, explained that this is why you have not been having it, because we need you to do a lot more of the work. So the archangels give assignments to certain people so that they can be effective in helping, in what Brother Rich and I were talking about before, of helping the earth to distress from some of the energetic backlog that exists, because these backlogs are real. And this is another reason for the proliferation of the movies that we see that give a voice to our ancestors. So it's necessary for, like I said, there are many light workers out there that have made a very unique agreement so that they can wield the power of the celestial kingdoms and the divine kingdoms, and it's a real thing.
Okay, so now we understand, for the people out there that's watching, hopefully they should get it by now, that it's a real thing. Now, go back to certain naysayers, not the real disrespectful ones. I'm talking about the ones that know about this, and they say, Gano, that's the work of the devil. Say you run into a Hebrew Israelite.
Right.
Not all Hebrew Israelites are the same. A lot of them will deal with the spiritual stuff, then a lot of them will be like, nah, although they deal with the Bible or whatnot. You know what I'm talking about, because I'm sure you encounter it.
Mm-hmm.
What's your answer to those that say, that's devil work? That's work that you're talking about, that you're dealing with, that's not of God. And if you say you are talking to angels, those are fallen angels. Mm-hmm. How do you, not just like Christian, Muslim, how do you counter somebody as Christian, Muslim, Hebrew, and I'm not talking about religious, I'm talking about spiritual, and they know about the spiritual stuff, but they feel that's negative work? How do you prove to them that it's not?
Well, one of the things that I understand is that I'm not here to really win anyone over. What I do my best to show people the proof. It's almost like the movie 9/11, Fahrenheit 9/11 that Michael Moore did, which I thought was brilliant. He never once said anywhere in the movie that XYZ was responsible for the event that the world knows as 9/11. What he did do was artfully give you all of the data, the facts, which really was tantamount to him taking you by the hand, leading you up to this and saying, what color is this? And then you would have to say it's like a cobalt blue or a slate blue. Right. And if you could walk away from him bringing you up to this and say that this is red, then there's something wrong with your vision. And I would like to say that I afford people the same platform where I show people. I'll give you an example. I just put a video up today, and it's called 3 Killer Sayings. And I have 3 different segments of the sun responding to my divine utterance. The sun is actually blinking. The sun is creating this huge light that comes straight down from the sun. I filmed it, and the sun starts to blink. And I'll ask people, if I wasn't qualified, why would the sun, that's 93 million miles away from Earth, and it takes 8 minutes to reach, create this instantaneous affirmation of the energies that it has given me along with the cosmos? Now, people will always have a question about, well, how do I know that XYZ? And I'd say, people, look at the fruit that it bears. Look at the good that it has done in the lives of other people. If it has done horrible things in the lives of other people, then maybe the energy comes from the devil. Maybe it comes from demons. But everything that I do, that Galacticus does, I would like to think is of the light because of what it produces. And what it produces is emancipation, freedom, liberation, empowerment, expansion, and enrichment across the board with people who are black, white, Chinese, Puerto Rican, Latino, whatever the case may be. People have an upliftment and a shift in their lives because the energy that I deal with is of the Creator.
All right. So, being that, see, now you took, just based on your answer, you took the conversation to a completely different shift in time, because you mentioned about the sun. So now we dealing with not just planetary on this planet. We're talking about outside of this planet now, dealing with the stars, the moon, the sun, and other planets basically. Because for you to do that and have that type of effect, and like you said, how much millions of miles away, right? So, first thing, pretty yes or no. You know about dematerializing a cloud?
Do I know about dematerializing a
have
cloud?
you done it?
I have not purposely dematerialized a cloud.
Okay. But you do know of it.
I know about, well, to go further, I mean, not that in particular, but I know about words of power and divine utterance that can make some very interesting things happen, and I have a lot of proof of that.
Now, hyperdrive. Brother Gano, you talked about everything else. Now, people that's deep into this, UFOs. Now, I know, because like I said, I know you spoke with you.
Mm-hmm.
You had your lecture here before and everything.
I remember that.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
But from what I see of you on the outside, I don't really see you get into that a lot and speak about that a lot. So for the viewers out there, what is your take on extraterrestrials? Because once you start dealing with spiritual, like the Bible with the chariots of heaven and all that, now we're talking on a more biblical scale, a more esoteric in nature way of UFOs or IFOs. What is your take on that? Have you had any experience on that for any of your listeners that haven't seen you on a platform yet? Get into that. Ones who haven't been to your lectures before.
I've had many experiences with beam ships, extraterrestrials, interdimensional races. And
hold on, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Because for the listeners, I want you to get technical. You said extraterrestrial.
Yes.
Interdimensional.
Interdimensional, yes.
Right. Interdimensional.
Yes. Star races.
Right.
The gods.
Just touch on, like, real brief, and then get back into
sure.
the story.
Okay. Well, there's a story in particular that was so special. The first time I went to Kemet, Egypt, I went there for an equinox, and I went there with a very, very dear friend of mine, Wendy Mack from London, and we went there together. We were taken up on a ship, and I vowed that I would never talk about it. I would let her be the one to talk about it because she experienced it with me. There was a video that I have on my channel where we're talking back and forth on the phone, and she talks about all the things that happened when we were taken up on a ship. The first night we went to Egypt, and we stayed in Luxor. It was very powerful, and I created, it's about a half an hour long. It's worth checking out. Dealing with interdimensional
Hold on, I'm
beings.
sorry.
Sure.
I can't let you say a story like that and don't go in. That's why when I do the interviews and I'm asking a question, I make sure I go in. And that's what people like about Brother Rich as well. How
Absolutely.
did these beings look, Brother Gano? You just can't say something like that and just skate off.
Well,
how did they look? What were you doing? What you and this lady was doing when they scooped you up?
Unfortunately, that's the reason why I said, because she shared it with me. I made a promise to her that I would either refer people to the video and allow her to talk about it, and you could hear her voice and you can hear all of the things, because she basically broke it down very well, and I have to honor that promise. Or I could share some other things with you, but there's been such a voluminosity of experiences. You know, I don't know if a lot of people believe it. Even when I was here and I did my multi-dimensional workshop at the time, that grew into another thing. I talked about some of the beings that I work with, which are the Pleiadians. The Pleiadians are a very ancient version, and they had hand in seeding life on our planet, as did a lot of other star races, and they have children on this planet. And a lot of the people that speak German is an ancient Pleiadian language. There are a lot of things that you would not be able to get.
Talking about a Caucasian race now, a Caucasian-looking race.
Now, I'm going to counter that. There are black people that are Pleiadian.
There
are many black people, and Pleiadian, unfortunately, because of Barbara Hand-Clow and some of the other people. There haven't been a lot of black people to espouse. I might be the only one to espouse Pleiadian knowledge, but there is what we would call a goddess. Her name is Electra, and she lives. Goddess? Yes, her name is Electra, and she comes from a planet called Ira, which is in that constellation. The Pleiadians is known as 7 sisters, and they're run by a god named Atlan. And I spoke a lot about that during one thing about me is I'll do a seminar or a workshop. I'll do it 3 or 4 times, and then I'll retire it forever, because I don't want to keep teaching the same stuff. So this is kind of old stuff to me. But to answer your question, and your listeners may appreciate this. The first time I saw a real physical ship, I went to spend time with one of my teachers who lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Reverend Adara Walton. And we went out to the backyard. She can validate this. That's why I called her name. And she has a pyramid in her backyard. Hope she doesn't get on me, because I'm telling her the person, but sorry, Rev. So we went to the backyard, and we went out in the night sky. Now, as you know, Santa Fe, New Mexico was where a lot of the extraterrestrials came down, and they came down because this planet was on the precipice of destroying itself in 1945, when we almost cracked the earth open. So those visitations are still there. We were hanging out in the backyard, and we looked up in the sky, and we were looking up at all the stars, and I said, wow, that star is moving. And she said, no, that's not a star. That's a spaceship. And I was like, wow. So I said, okay. I connected with the ship. I just focused the laser beam, and I said, okay, if you're really a ship, prove it. And the ship lit up. It went like this. It went like that. Went back and forth. And then it disappeared. And I said, did you see that, Rev? And she said, yeah, I saw it. And then it came back, and we just watched a whole bunch of ships. So one of the things about the ships, and this is something in regards to the, let's just say, Ashanti dagger that I have, that is a off-world instrument. Those ships have the ability to become physical.
Correct.
But they have to speed up in their resonance, and then they're able to disappear. They go into the 4th octave of ether. So that instrument that I have also does the same thing when I have to take it to the Hall of Judgment. And we also have
the Hall of Judgment. That's to bless it, recharge it. What?
It has, okay, the Hall of Judgment is on the 6th heaven. And this is where a lot of the things that are judged, not just here on Earth, but on a lot of the planets in our quadrant of the galaxy, have to be weighed and judged. If you look at the laws of Ma'at, and you look at the whole Kemetic, if you look at the Kemetic walk, and it talks about how Tahuti is recording, and Ahmed is there to tear the souls out of the frame. A lot of that has to deal with 6th heavenal activity. So a lot of things have to be processed, and a lot of the actions of every living being, they have to be recorded, they have to be managed, they have to be weighed, and there has to be an opposite polarity, which means that people will basically walk into the gates of hell voluntarily so that they can transmute their energy, because they wasted their time in the body not transmuting it. So the danger of people walking around with the peckerwood, white man, crackers, the devil, and all of this stuff, anger in their heart, is when they get outside of the gates of their physical body, they will literally put themselves in a purification that they will witness as hell. And it's a real thing.
Okay, so with that said, right?
Yes.
There's been a whitewashing of extraterrestrials. A lot of people, they'll bring up people that are black, Hispanic, so-called black, Hispanic, so-called Hispanic, Native American, so-called Native American, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll bring them up there, and they want them to tell the story, but they don't want to mention black extraterrestrials. And that's dealing with the government, especially the American government.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on that? Because people will hear you speak and figure like, oh, we all supposed to be one, everything is nice, and these people is not going to have no judgment. It's something going on why they are not talking about black extraterrestrials. A lot of people say that's because it's a link with the Bible, the book of Revelation, Yahweh Shai coming back, which people call Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And then you go into other books where it's talking about that. What is the take on judgment, and why are they covering up the black species of aliens, if you want to say?
Well, if you look at, and that's a great question, they're covering up for the same reason why they've defaced a lot of our antiquitous statues. You know, the first dynasty, or the pre-dynastic rulers of Kemet, were black, and the evidence is empirical when you look at how they tried to erase the lips and the noses and get rid of those features. So that same agenda is propagated. Whereas if you look at even the Syrians who come from Sirius, they are probably, you see that black, mm-hmm. They're probably darker than that, and they have two hearts in their chest, and they are the ones that gave, if you look at Drunvalo Melchizedek, the whole thing about awakening the illuminated heart. A lot of the beam ships that are in this universe were built on Sirius, and they're built by us, and we have mastered a lot of those, a lot of the things that the universe or our planet is still scratching its head over. So the agenda of whitewashing is something that has to be done by certain people who have an inferiority complex that need to insert their progeny into the mix so that they're not completely left out. So I understand that very, very well. Whereas if you look at even Thor, you look at Balder, you look at Odin, who are known as Norse gods, they're not really white. They're blue, they're black.
When you find older forms of it, you do find those guys as being black.
Absolutely. So when they took Idris Elba and they made him the god Heimdall, they really weren't far off the mark. And that entire pantheon is a different kind of melanin, and it's us. So it's not something to be shocked at.
All right. So if people say, you know what, Brother Gano, you there at Nicholas, put together a damn workshop. We doing meditation. We want to go to Mars. We want to go here. We want to go there. Not to challenge you to see if you're true. This is people that already believe you or know of what you're saying, and they want to do it. Because one of the things I heard was with the CIA. I don't even think the CIA, the government, they had this guy who could astral project like real good. You got people way better than others, real good, and they just gave him the coordinates. I know you might know this story. They gave him the coordinates, and he went to Mars, but he never want to say how the people look. And I'm like, why the interviewers not asking this man how they look? And he said he just went to Mars, and he said he panicked. He said because he realized they could see him. He
Right.
accustomed doing it, going to places the people can't see him. He said when he went to, and he didn't know he was on Mars at first until he really looked around. This is a Caucasian guy, and he said he got out of there so fast. And when he got out, the other Caucasian dude that told him, that ended up giving him a job, that was testing him, he was like, yeah, that's right. There are people on Mars.
Well,
So-
not only that, but you have to realize that a lot of these people will not have a platform available to them if they let people know that there are melanated people on Mars. Even if you go to Zechariah Sitchin, he talks about the Igigi. The Igigi are known as some of the Martians that were there in physical form that got tired of mining for gold, and they said, we're tired of this. So the human race was created basically to do their job, and, you know, Earthlings are primarily Martians, and we are also, or were created as a slave race, and a lot of these beings were black. So if you look at a lot of Mesopotamian, if you look at a lot of the artifacts that are right there in Turkey and in Iraq or Uruk, a lot of the government in 2003 rushed in to take a lot of these artifacts, and they look a lot like us. Their hair is a little different, and their beards go like this. They're melanated people.
Do that have any correlations with the Bible, Quran, or of certain holy books? Like, how do you speak to somebody that deal with the Bible and say, yeah, I know the chariots are really IFOs, identified flying objects, or UFO, unidentified flying objects? Like, what is your stance to telling them, you know what, you are right? And how does it correlate with the Bible? Could you just give one thing before we wrap it up?
Most of what is in the Bible has been borrowed from something that is far older, and that would be called the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a man that you can still see statues of him to this day.
He was saying,
He's
like, he was
holding
as
a
a
lion.
giant.
He was a giant. He was half god, half man. That's known to be as a demigod, and he was melanated. He was trying to figure out why he was so powerful and why he lived so long. There was a time on earth where the gods or the demigods walked amongst man, and we knew them to be our creators. Today, a lot of them left here because we were perverting their presence and we were worshiping them. And a lot of them didn't want to be worshipped. A lot of them, there's something in the human default program that makes one want to worship something that's superior. If you doubt that, all you have to do is go on Instagram and look at all of the women that look like goddesses, and men want to worship them.
That is true.
Women want to worship the Mandingo or certain strippers, and they will give everything that they have. That is a fault in the character and the trait of the human genome that has to be corrected. So that's something that turned the gods off, some of them, and they left to go to different places so that they didn't have to deal with that impediment. So a lot of what's in the Bible is talking about some of those demigods and what they had to go through. Okay, so I want to just say lastly, and I want to start off with, on Sunday, August the 21st, I am doing the first annual Galacticus Presents a World Peace event. Our world is not focusing on having world peace. This is something that's going to be happening. It starts at 11 a.m. It will go to 5 p.m. There are a lot of people that need prayer, healing. There are a lot of people that need to have a divine touch. And everybody that I've initiated throughout the years that has Kundalini activation, Kundalini Reiki, I would invite you to come. We're going to set up stations, and we're going to lay hands on people, and we're going to show people how divinity works. And that's going to be a free event right there on 86th Street, West 86th Street in the Central Park exit. And we want everybody to come. It's a family environment. It's a children-free environment. We'll be there for a few hours. We're going to have a great time. I also would like to invite people to the Divine World Seminar that will be happening in Los Angeles. It'll be happening on August the 14th, and the information is on galacticus.com. The day before, which is August the 13th, I will be activating more people's Kundalini that want to sign up for that. And Hypernatural Magic will be happening October the 16th. in Lincoln Harbor in New Jersey, and I will only do that one time. Hypernatural Magic will be where I actually show you how to rewrite the codes of your own matrix and create all kinds of magic in your life. It's the sum total of some of the things that I've learned from the gods and the angels themselves. And all of that information is on galacticus.com. So these are 5 events that I wanted to talk about today. In essence, and in Rapture, I would say that it's up to the human to accept the upgrades, the same way that when people play video games, they're always looking for the cheat codes or the upgrade or the extra lives. I am affording people that opportunity. And when the gods see that you are taking advantage of the technology that they make available, they are more inclined to work with you. And that's what Galacticus is all about for people that are ready to take that quantum leap in their apparatus, in their knowledge, and in their enlightenment. Yes, my number, or the Galacticus number, is 212-604-4446. You could email me at galacticus@gmail.com. That's GALIGHTICUS. And you can go to the YouTube channel. There are 100 free videos on everything about angels, numbers, the occult, the arcane, metaphysical. And that's galacticus.com on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. And lastly, for lots of modality that will teach you about the altar and lots of other products that will emancipate you, you can go to my website, which is galacticus.com. And that's it. Facebook. Gano Grills is on there. Absolutely. We have a community on Facebook as well. We have a galacticus.com page. 2 of them. We have Galacticus UK and Europe. Hello to my Europe family, my UK family. And we also have galacticus.com on Facebook. And Gano Grills, I am also there. I have 2 pages. Take your pick. Peace and love, Black family. This is Sri Gano Grills, and it's really important that all of you people who have been watching these videos, Brother Rich has worked really hard to coalesce and bring you the best of the best throughout the years. This information is a labor of love, and if it does something for your life, deal with the laws of reciprocity and send in a donation. Brother Rich says $1. I say send 100 in. Send 50 in. Give till it actually stretches your ability and makes an actual impression on your pockets. When you're able to deal with those kind of laws of reciprocity, you will be doing an exercise in abundance, and you'll be fast familiar how quickly this money comes back to you. Support Underground Railroad. I'm Sri Gano Grills. Peace.